I remember very early on watching her battle substance abuse. And at that time, it was the early ages of crack cocaine. And so I vividly, even today, remember what that looked like, seeing my mother using crack, going to stores, buying the paraphernalia with her, she being, her favorite drink was vodka. So as a young child, as most children are going off to school or either going outside to play, many times I was just making sure my mother was okay inside the house. I was making sure that if she was in the bathroom, that she still was alive. So again, my concern wasn't about going to school. My concern was just to make sure that my mother was okay, because at that time, like I said, it was just she and I. We lived in a very small apartment. All of our family lived here in West Virginia. So I felt at a very young age to where when she should have been taking care of me, I was taking care of her. And as you stated, by the age of 8, I'm at school one day, had to get called to the office because I had, in the 80s, $20 was a lot of money. Now we know $20 now can't even buy you a 4 for $4 if you got 6 people up in your house, right? and so and so I had $20 that I had found. And so when I got to the office, they had to call my mom to make sure it was my money. And the last words I remember hearing my mom say was, leave it in the office until you get out of school, and I'll see you when you get home. So, of course, like any other kid, 3 o'clock bell rings. My apartment is literally across the street. I run to the office, get the money, come outside to be addressed by who then introduced himself as a police officer to later find out that my mother had been murdered. So here I am as an 8-year-old child with no biological family, no mother or no father, stuck in the inner city of Detroit, now wondering, what am I going to do?
Hey, welcome to KROSS BARZ, the podcast where we discuss interesting topics with some alternative perspectives. I'm your co-host, Big O, and I have with me...
Hey, Tanae is back in the building one more time with none other my friend, my homegirl, LaKeisha Barron-Brown. Give it up, the community, the advocate, the author, the motivational speaker, the MOB, the boss, Boom, boom, boom. Give it up for her.
All right. You got a lot of, are you Jamaican or something? Like, you got a lot of jobs there.
I mean, I hear that quite often. I just keep myself busy. I'm going to just use it like that.
That's what you do. Because
hey,
you got the
there
locks.
You go, boss.
You got a bunch of jobs. You might be from the Caribbean. I don't know. Okay, got you. But I like that. So you stay busy and everything.
I stay busy.
Before we do that, let's get to the beginning. All right. Where are you originally from?
So originally, I am a native of Detroit, Michigan. However, by way, I am here in West Virginia. I've been here the majority of my life. I'm originally from Detroit, Michigan.
Okay, D-Town in the house. Okay.
Yes.
So now, if you're from Detroit, so what was your first gun of choice? I mean, no, I'm just joking. Keep you on your toes. All right. So originally from Detroit, Michigan, and then you went to West Virginia.
Yes.
Okay. So now how long did the adjustment and the culture shock happen? Because Detroit's very urban and West Virginia, country.
Yeah.
Okay. Or what we say is, not suburban. Suburban.
Pretty rural. Yeah.
Rural area. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So now we'll come to West Virginia. So what age did you leave Detroit and move to West Virginia?
So chronologically, I was 8. Mentally, maturity-wise, I probably was about 13.
Oh, okay. You was one of those kids? You was like 8 going on 30?
Yeah, I would say that.
Yeah.
I would say that.
Okay.
Not by choice, but by circumstances.
Okay,
Absolutely.
so your early recollection of Detroit, did you enjoy school there? You have some friends? What was like for you, 8, because that's real young.
So life at 8 was a little bit different, right? So I don't remember a lot about what the average children did in the community. What I remember is, as a very young child, being responsible for taking care of my mother. So the roles were sort of switched in my home. So as I vaguely remember having friends, if that's what you would say, I don't remember doing a lot of childhood things.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was a little bit different in the city for me.
Okay. So now when you moved to West Virginia, was it a culture shock, or were you surrounded by family and friends, or did you go to a very area where you had to start from scratch?
So it was a combination of many things that you mentioned, right? Because as a young kid, even though I moved here at 8, I used to visit a lot with my family here in West Virginia because this is where my mother is originally from. So I would come here often with my biological family. So when I moved to West Virginia, it definitely was a culture shock, mainly because what I do recall of living in Detroit was all I remember seeing was either Black people, because that's what we were at that time, early in the 80s, or Puerto Ricans. I rarely recall ever seeing anyone that was white. So moving to West Virginia, going to elementary school, it was more than just a visit now. This is now considered home. So to walk into a school and see nothing but white kids and a few specks of Black children was a true culture shock for me for quite some time. Let me just say that.
Okay. The children in West Virginia, were they welcoming of you, or was it like, because in the 80s, that's the time I grew up as well. And I didn't have that rural experience. Was it like them versus us, or was it like more of like, we integrated and it wasn't a lot of us, so you assimilated into their culture per se?
I think ultimately, I think they attempted to accept me, but because of where I had come from, in my mindset, I wasn't too accepting of them, if that makes sense. But I still had to find a way to commingle with the environment in which I was amongst.
Okay.
So
hey, I could say that too. Being from West Virginia, I'm from here, and still, your community, you would get that safety net of, all your Black people, all your friends, cousins, and things are around like that. But when you went to school, you were the minority at the school, especially the school I went to. We had schools that had a greater population of African Americans in them, but you still weren't like 100% of the school. You were always the on the lower end of that. So it's challenging. You just kind of stay in your little circle. You stay with your friends, and you still make friends, with other people, but you really don't be you until you're back with your family and friends.
The reason why I ask that is because throughout the years I've seen that people who move to maybe rural or a suburban area where they're the minority, being Black, that they assimilated into like white culture. So they start listening to rock music. They started wearing the type of dress. Their hairstyle was, a certain way versus a way in the urban areas or in different areas where they may have came from. And so that's why I was like, okay, were you still the authentic you, or you had to create a different version of you so you could survive?
So good question. So I would say early on when I first moved here, I didn't recognize that. But later throughout my life of school, it eventually got to the point to where my ethnicity was an issue for the people whom I was around. So I had to adjust accordingly, sometimes not always making the best decisions on how I was going to handle that. And sometimes I'm ultimately facing discrimination because of the color of my skin. But when I first got here, and it may be because I was so young, and I think at a very young age, you may not really know the difference between Black and white in regards to how to treat someone other than just innocent children. So early on in my early years of school, it was just innocent children who went to school with you're either Black or you're white. Now, my defense mechanism at times may have presented issues amongst how people chose to relate to me because I came with an arrogance about myself because of where I had come from and some of the things I had endured as a young child before moving here.
Okay. So you was the one like, yo, for real, I'm hard. All right. Yeah. But we got to ask this real serious question, though.
Yeah.
Want me to embrace yourself.
Okay.
Did you date white boys?
No.
Okay. Listen, hold on. Wait. Let's say this. Nothing wrong with that. I don't want to make sure, but
right.
Who look at you like, so as soon as you get to a town, you just went right over there, huh?
Not my preference.
Okay.
What then is not now.
Okay. Cool. And listen, I ain't saying nothing. I'm not trying
to each his own, right?
Yeah, to each his own. But I just didn't want to see I went right over here and said, "Oh, I couldn't wait to get here." Whoa, thank God. They're crazy. It's cool. All right, got you. And how some men were at that time, I could understand if you did. You know what I mean? But thank you, sister. Stay strong. All right. So now you're you're in school in West Virginia. I would assume that the curriculum should be much easier coming from Detroit, Michigan. You should be kind of breezing through. So how was your academic success versus your social success? How did that?
So as I alluded to, I lived in Detroit with my mother. And so my aunt, who lives here in West Virginia, which is my mother's sister, would always tell me when I lived in Detroit, you know, you have to get an education. Education is very important, because at the time when I was living with my mom, it wasn't that education wasn't important, but my mother was more important to me. So based upon the life in which she lived, a lot of times I didn't go to school. So when I moved to West Virginia in third grade, by that time, by March, I had already missed about 70 or 80 days of school. So if you know, that's a lot of school for any child to miss, regardless of what grade you're in. But pivotably, that is the time that literacy really becomes a part of who you are. So a lot of understanding the concept of the phonics of reading, I missed because I didn't go to school. Not because I wasn't intellectual enough to gain it, but I missed it because I wasn't in school. So throughout school, when I got here, I sort of had to make a way. I sort of had to find a way to not allow that flaw to be seen by others. So what I remember very early on is that I used to read with my finger, because that was my only way of being able to try to pick out what I was supposed to be reading and staying on task. And I remember a teacher saying, you have to start reading with your fingers. I'm thinking, but if I stop reading with my fingers, you may acknowledge I can't read that well. And so I sort of had to find my way through school. So academically, I did well, but there were some areas of my life that and still today, that I had difficulty adapting to, because I had missed the core of reading at a very young age in third grade.
Okay. So now you move on to high school, you figure out the way of how to finesse, that's what I would call it. I ain't read my fingers, but I got to do some. I might put a book under there or something. So you finessed and got your way through it. So now you're in middle school, you starting to develop, boys starting to develop, social circles are starting to develop.
Yeah.
How did you maintain or manage to get through that area?
Wow. So my seventh grade year, I was so excited. I got to go to the middle school, a junior high thing. I got to go to the junior high that all my siblings had went to, right? Halfway through middle school, our house caught on fire. Okay. And so all I had ever known was this house that I had come to visit as a young child. So now I'm like, well, where am I going to go? So I remember that Christmas, my parents said, we got a surprise for you, right? And I'm like, okay, surprise. So they take me to this house. We're driving down the interstate. We get to this house, what looks to be this mansion to me compared to where I had come from. House is lit up to find out this is where you're now going to be staying. Well, where I was now staying was a all-white community, which took me away from the middle school that had more Black kids to now being only 2 Black children in a school.
In the whole school. Right. And I think she touched on that in the book, how you had to move from, one to the other.
Hey, Tanae, don't you dare do that. The book, what is the name of this book? You didn't introduce it yet?
Okay, well, whenever you're ready to do that, I'm ready to get in, because I'm excited about it.
You just had the book like everybody knows. Like everything.
All right, so Miss Keisha, your book that you wrote is called Through the Eyes of a Cracked Soul. And in that book, you talk a lot about your beginning, and that's what Big O, thank you, Big O, for backing up a little bit. There you go, Through the Eye of a Cracked Soul. Make sure you guys get this book. But in the book, you do talk about your beginning, and we're already to the middle school. So I want to go back a little bit and kind of just touch on when you were there with your mom, and you were saying that, your mom was more important than the school, going to school. So in the book, Through the Eye of a Cracked Soul, it definitely, there's some issues with substance abuse going on in here. And from reading that, you lost your mom and your dad, about time you were 7 years old. So if you could just touch on a little bit with your mom, like what was happening on those early times when you were there with her. Why were you so concerned about her than other things?
Yeah, so thank you for that question. As you alluded to, at a very young age, I had lost both parents to murder. So going back to my mother, after my dad had passed, it was just she and I left in Detroit, Michigan. And so I remember very early on watching her battle substance abuse. And at that time, it was the early ages of crack cocaine. And so I vividly, even today, remember what that looked like. Seeing my mother using crack, going to stores, buying the paraphernalia with her. She being, her favorite drink was vodka. So as a young child, as most children are going off to school or either going outside to play, many times I was just making sure my mother was okay inside the house. I was making sure that if she was in the bathroom, that she still was alive. So again, my concern wasn't about going to school. My concern was just to make sure that my mother was okay, because at that time, like I said, it was just she and I. We lived in a very small apartment. All of our family lived here in West Virginia. So I felt at a very young age to where when she should have been taking care of me, I was taking care of her. And as you stated, by the age of 8, I'm at school one day. Had to get called to the office because I had, in the 80s, $20 was a lot of money. Now we know $20 now can't even buy you a 4 for $4 if you got 6 people up in your house, right? and so I had $20 that I had found. And so when I got to the office, they had to call my mom to make sure it was my money. And the last words I remember hearing my mom say was, "Leave it in the office until you get out of school, and I'll see you when you get home." So of course, like any other kid, 3:00 bell rings. My apartment is literally across the street. I run to the office, get the money, come outside to be addressed by who then introduced himself as a police officer, to later find out that my mother had been murdered. So here I am as an 8-year-old child with no biological family, no mother or no father, stuck in the inner city of Detroit, now wondering, what am I going to do?
Okay.
Yeah.
Excuse me. My question is that have they ever found the person who killed your mother?
So it's interesting that you asked me that question because, as I allude to my book, as a young child, as we probably all was raised, you stay in a kid's place, right? Mm-hmm. And so as a young child, I often wondered, this, what has happened? Has anybody been charged with this murder? Nobody talked about it, And so one of the things I would always say is that when my mom's casket closed, so did everybody's mouth in my family. Nobody talked to me about the do's, the don'ts, the what's, what happened. So to honestly answer your question, I don't know. Okay. I tried to find out as I got older in life, but unfortunately, I'm unaware.
Okay. And I was actually just really trying to focus on you and your development and then come back to that part, but Jason ain't got to jump the gun and just say, "Oh,
I did." I was because I can relate. I have a parent who has substance abuse, so I can relate. We can still, come back to a little bit more and we can move forward. He's a timeline guy, but I mean, I understand that.
Don't let me get y'all off y'all's timeline now.
It is cool. However, what I would say is that I lost one of my parents to domestic violence. So I essentially lost both of my parents at a very early age. So that's why, like, when you said that, I was like, yeah, I know exactly some of the stuff I could definitely relate. I can empathize versus I can truly empathize, your plight. Sure. But get back to just you versus the plight. Okay, you're in middle school, you're going through some things, and you get what I would say your third culture shock, where you come to a middle school where you're one of 2 individuals in the entire school. Okay, So how did you navigate through that? And was it easy? Was it difficult? Or you just adjusted?
No, it was very difficult. From the first day I walked into school, I felt like that truly I was being punished. I didn't understand why. I felt like it was a punishment. I compared it to being on the plantation. So that big house. Wow. Yeah, that big house that was a surprise to me for Christmas was like a plantation with pillars. Wow. And I felt like that many times I was in an outhouse and I just didn't know how to function in such an environment. And ironically, and I'm gonna bounce back and forth because you may hear me say mom and mother, but I was raised by my aunt who later had me call her mom. Okay. So as we're sitting in the office my first day, it was like it was normal for her because I think where she grew up in this environment, that she didn't feel what I was feeling. So even when I would go home and say, "Hey, this is not a good environment for me," she's like, "It'll get better," So it was never easy to be in a middle school where, again, I felt that I was always being discriminated against, or I was only being used because I was an athlete and then have to go back home to the plantation, if that makes sense.
So you, we're going through what we would say is microaggressions on a daily basis and things of that nature. So now tell me, you mentioned that you were an athlete. What was your sport of choice?
Track.
That girl can run, Big O. She can run.
Okay, I
She
know
can
some girl.
run.
I know a girl in West Virginia that might be faster than you.
Is that right?
Yeah, I know one. Yeah. And I'll start trouble. Okay. She still can run if you want it now.
Okay, bring it.
Okay. All right, absolutely. Look at me starting some junk. Okay.
Meet me at Lately. How about that?
Hey,
Okay,
Lady
absolutely.
Phil.
So now that you are this athlete, did that give you some kind of, as I would like to say, notoriety where they would say, well, she's a good athlete? Sometimes people will say, nah, don't mess with that one, chill, because she's the athlete. Did that kind of give you a little leeway or no?
I think to some degree, yeah. But I also felt like I was their pawn. So if the white student didn't want to run this race, Keisha run it because she's good enough. You know what I mean? So I saw quite often that I don't know if I was liked because I was Keisha or liked because she's the athlete. And if I need her, we'll use her to do it. So it was hard really to balance that age, but ultimately track became my outlet for so many other things in which I was going through. So sometimes, even though it may have been direct discrimination towards me, I didn't care because it was my outlet for me at that moment.
Okay. So now you found an outlet. Okay. You found an identity of being an athlete because, in middle school, that's where your identity is kind of formed. You're like, are you going to be a nerd? Okay. Are you going to be an athlete? Are you going to be the cool kid? Or are you going to be, as I like to say, look, druggy. That's when they start like
or a combination of that.
Yeah, a couple of combinations.
Yeah.
Because I thought I was cool, but I was corny, but I didn't know it. So that was beautiful.
How you ain't know?
Yo, I shallow held my way through life. I never knew I was corny, and until I got grown, and now I know I'm corny. I'm good with it. I know what happened to cool people. All cool people in jail.
Word bars.
Yeah. Accept yourself for who you are, right?
Yeah,
Love you.
Corny them up. But so now you found, as people like to say, you found your tribe. Okay. So you over here. Now, high school. How was the adjustment going to high school? What was the difference between high school, middle school? What happened there?
High school, my 10th grade year was very traumatic for me. That's when I began having race fights at school. Ironically, people who quote unquote like me my 7th, 8th, 9th grade year, I don't know if it's hormones, peer pressure, what, but these same kids that I thought liked me in middle school, junior high, by the time we got to high school, was a whole different ball game. I can remember specifically wearing a shirt that had Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King on it. I walked into the cafeteria. Now, let me also remind you, as we're talking about clothing, I'm also walking into a cafeteria with kids who on a regular basis had Confederate flags on their shirt. Okay.
Right.
So I walk into the cafeteria and a young girl said, "Why do you have that shirt on?" And I said, "I don't believe I asked you why you wear your shirts. I don't understand why I got to answer why I wore this shirt." So long story short, it ended up being a race situation to where I ended up fighting in school because of what I wore. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. We definitely gonna talk.
I got a story on that one. Yeah.
Hold on for a second. So hold on for a second.
Pause.
See, I know history, so let's just understand this, right? West Virginia is a border state. West Virginia in the Civil War, because this is where this Confederate flag, this is why I'm bringing this up. West Virginia fought on the side of the Union. Why would someone in West Virginia be wearing a Confederate flag knowing that they were totally against it?
The lack of understanding will make you do anything.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Because that's like me being from New Jersey.
And then, but they have families that come from other places as well, from, either further south or move over here to another state. So you have that too. And then you have generations of people who don't complete high school, who don't know this and that. Oral traditions are passed down. And so you don't have, you have a little of that too. And they believe that it's not a problem. Currently, right now, my neighbor down the street has a Confederate flag hanging on his garage.
Oh, no, that's easy. Listen.
But they don't think that it's a problem. They like, well, there's nothing wrong with it. And
I'm not prejudiced.
And they'll go.
To me, I'm just being very honest because of the years of life that I've lived and what I've come to see. I'd rather them have it up and I can say, hey, there go one right there, versus them not have one up and you don't know who they are.
Yeah.
Right. You know both of them.
I have identifying things where you can look at me and see what I am right from the door. You can be like, oh, they're one of them. Whereas some people got camouflage you don't know. But if they have a flag, I'm like, oh, okay, we don't have to trick or treat at that house. So for me, my wife don't agree. She on the line like, they need to take it down. I'm like, no, leave it up. I want to know where you are. No, okay, there they go. Put it on your trucks so I can.
Oh, it's on the truck too. Look. Stickers behind it.
Look, that's why I say car, because I know. Yeah, put it on your pickup. Put it on your pickup. Absolutely. All right, because I'm good. I'm cool with that.
Cadillacs and Lexuses too.
Look, I'm okay.
But as we digress, but in school, definitely, that's high school. You're getting into some race, fights happened in my high school as well. This was in the 90s, happened, with us, the same thing too. And so definitely feel you on that side of that. Yes.
I was in New Jersey and we had a race fight, and my high school was 70-30, but it was the junior high that really had the big fight because it happened during the Rodney King trial.
Oh, yeah.
So when that happened, students over here thought it was okay because, for me, I didn't fight because I was like, that don't really affect us over here. We've been dealing with racial profiling forever. So me, like, the police is bad. I was like, well, not all police, because some of the police were my coaches. But I also was like, I live in an area where if you drove through the town and you got more than 2 Black people in it, they stopped you.
Right.
And that's a federal investigation that they found. This is not me exaggerating. Like literally, that was the man.
Yeah.
3 Black people, find a reason to pull them over. Fact.
Wow. Yeah.
So now you go through this race ride, someone approaching you about wearing a shirt with probably the greatest American person, Martin Luther King, and Nelson Mandela, who actually spent 27 years in jail because of his belief about segregation and apartheid. Let's use the correct term, apartheid. And now they're having kids walk around with Confederate flags, and no one had a problem. Now, after the fights, the race problem issues happen. Were you guys able to maintain some kind of decorum? Because I know that track, football, basketball, I would assume that might be one particular race maybe better than maybe another, where they would dominate in those particular fields that I've seen across the country. I'm not saying that it was at your school, but I know that it tends to be that way. How did your school able to repair and people be able to graduate? Because you did graduate. Correct.
Not from there, though.
Okay, true. But how were they able to maintain and move on?
I can't say that it really got any better. I just sort of already had my mind made up that if something else happened, it's not going to go great, right? And so I had to figure out for myself how to adjust to what I had no control over, right? And so that was just one time I looked at my parents and said, listen, this is it. Like, I have to get out of this school because if I come back next year, I don't know what my next year is going to look like. And so I think that was one time that I think my parents really understood but felt what I was feeling, because it wasn't so shortly thereafter we moved. And I was able to get out of that environment and go to another school.
Okay. All right. So now you moved to another school. Is this school more diverse, or is it the same old thing that you moved to this school and you got?
It's West Virginia.
Yeah, I'm about to say probably as diverse. Yeah, probably as diverse as it can get in West Virginia, but definitely in regards to the number of African-American children, there were definitely way more in that school. And I would say that the Caucasian students were a little bit more versed in dealing with those who look different than themselves. So it was a much better environment my latter 2 years of school than what I had encountered from 7th grade up to 10th grade.
10th grade. Okay. Well, what kind of music were you guys listening to while you were in high school? Because it seemed like, when the music, if we all listen to rap, we can't be so much. And were they able to make that connection, or was there a separation in the type of music you listened to?
So probably in the earlier eras when I was experiencing discrimination, it was more their rock and roll, their, Guns N' Roses or somebody, whoever that is, AC/DC. But when I went off to the other high school, my 11th and 12th grade year, I think everybody practically, I don't think anybody really paid attention to what music you listened to, because it wasn't a matter of trying to figure out who was separate and who was different.
Right.
Everybody just sort of got along. We just went our own way and did our own thing. But I think also for me, I was so excited to be around Black kids. A lot of times I didn't pay the white kids any attention, if that makes sense, because I had a lot of animosity by the time I got amongst Black kids around other white kids because of what I had endured.
Got you. All right. So now, did that play an influence of what you want to do in the future? Because now did you still run track? Were you looking at college?
Yes, I still ran track. But however, I was over it. Because when I wanted to quit in middle school, even though it was my outlet, I still at times didn't like the fact I was being used, if that makes sense. I was just over the seasons, over the track. My mother wouldn't let me quit. And so my 12th grade year, I was like, I'm done. I'm not going to college to run, even though I had a scholarship to run. And so I sort of self-sabotage myself to not run track in college, if that makes sense.
So your mom allowed you to quit knowing you had a free education on that?
She didn't. No, I ran. I ran all the way up until the state track meet in my high school year, but because I didn't have much support of my family coming to my meets, she didn't know that I was purposefully finding ways not to be as successful in running. Because I had nobody there to tell me to do different. As long as I came home with a medal or a trophy, in her mind, I did well, but I knew for myself, I was over it.
Right.
Got you. Okay. So now you're in high school. Wait a minute. We skipping over some important thing.
What?
Did you have a boo?
I did.
You still remember his name?
I did.
Okay. All right.
I did.
You think of him time to time? You sit there and you think about him time to time.
Quite often.
It's a story behind that too.
That's a story behind that as well.
Yeah. Oh shit, we're here for it.
yeah. And that's what I'm saying. The book tells so many things about, I know, I can't help it.
So I'm leading them up there, and then I'm taking it away, and then I'm saying, well, if you want to get to know all this juicy details, you got to get the book. But
you definitely got to get the book. Okay,
I got you. So you had your boo. All right. Yeah. Did that decide what you're going to do after high school?
No, because he went to North Carolina A&T, and I went to Marshall University.
Don't say that. That's his school. That's his school.
The Aggies?
Yeah.
Aggie Pride. Aggie Pride. You know.
See, look, he happy now.
Let me hear more of the story now.
Yeah, right. Now you want to know.
Look, they do.
Look at his lip.
Yeah, that's where the fine men went.
Oh, Lord. What you go for?
No, they recruited me. They said, gotta get you.
He was an athlete too.
You went to A&T?
Yeah, I played football and everything.
What year?
93 to 97.
Well, he was there in 94.
He was
supposed to be playing football there, but I think something was wrong with his ankle. But yeah, he was there in 94 for football.
Yeah, he know me. Don't worry about it. If you was there when I was there, you knew me. I'm not saying I'm popular, but was popular or anything like that. But if you want to say who was the greatest, I'm not saying I was the greatest when I was there. Not as an athlete, just as a student and a person. I wasn't, but you might want to mention me when you mention a great one.
Well, see, that's a part of the story that I'm not able to. Anyway, we'll go. We'll go there another time.
All right, cool. Wait a minute. Are you an Aggie?
I'm not.
No, she's a herd.
Marshall University.
You?
Yes.
Hold on. So he's made the decision. Y'all was sitting there. He said, "Look, boo, I'm gonna go to North Carolina A&T. Where you gonna go?" You said, "I'm going to go to Marshall." And
not technically. That ain't how it went, but that's where I ended up.
That's how it went in my mind. That's how it went. He was like this, look, you come down there, they got an excellent track program. You go to Olympians. If you're Olympian, you go down there, you're amongst our people. Our people can make sure that, we get some, all this stuff. And then you was like, I'm going to go to Marshall. And you was like, and I know what he said. He was like, yo, you gonna let me be down there amongst all these fine women? You ain't scared that I'm going to venture out?
He created a whole episode.
All right.
This is in my mind.
Okay. Because that's what you would have said, right?
No.
Yeah. Yep.
My girl from high school was like, I think I need to see other people. I was like, what? I see
So
people all the time. We're talking. Okay, that's a whole other thing. That's trauma. But no, I don't want to talk about my trauma.
It's a trauma.
All right, yeah, I don't want to talk about my trauma. You guys still the script. All right, so
stick to the script.
Yeah, stick to the script. All right, so now you about to graduate. Your mom, everybody happy. They looking at you saying, all right, now, you know, she been through a lot of changes. She has endured, and now she don't want to go to college to run track, but what did you think about doing, and what did you want to do with your life at that time?
So actually, as we talk about schools, Marshall was not my first choice.
What was your first
Actually, well, I was a very militant person because of what I endured. So actually, I wanted to go to HBCU. So I got accepted to North Carolina. I'm sorry, I got accepted to Norfolk State and Wilberforce.
Okay.
And so I was going to go to one or the other. And my sister looked at me and said, I don't think you are a fit for that school. And at that point, things that my sister said to me really mattered. Her voice really mattered to me. So I'm like, well, God, maybe I'm not, maybe I shouldn't go there. And I didn't really question the whys. I was just like, well, if she said it, then maybe I shouldn't. And so I was like, but I know I have to go to school. And so the following day, I went down to I had already applied to Marshall anyway, because they make you do that in high school. And so I had already got accepted to Marshall. So I was like, well, I guess I just go to Marshall. So it wasn't really something that I wanted to do when I went off to college. And it took some years even being there that I accepted the fact I was there. But actually, I wanted to go to HBCU.
Okay. But did you understand later why your aunt would say that, or your mom would say that?
No, I never asked thereafter. I think her thought was I was an introvert, give or take, is what she probably would have described it as. And I really didn't talk to a lot of people, but she didn't understand that I wasn't, even to this day, I'm not a person who socializes with a lot of people. It doesn't mean I don't get along with people. So I think in her mind, me going to a HBCU, not really being very sociable, I don't think that she thought I would have been able to survive in that type of environment. But I never inquired. I was just like, whatever, and just left it as so.
Okay.
I'm glad that she went to Marshall, because Marshall wasn't my first choice either. I wanted to go to Howard, but ended up at Marshall. So I might have been a West Virginia thing. You weren't from here, but you want to see some other things, But I'm glad she went to Marshall, because that's where I, met Keisha, was at Marshall University, and we had a lot of fun there. But I did.
Yeah, and let me make sure I say this, because make sure I'm making it clear for our new listeners and viewers that I have nothing against any PWI. I just always I just always look at sometimes the reason and rationale why some people look down upon HBCUs. But you guys made it clear that you wanted to attend. Sometimes HBCUs. So anybody been to HBCUs, I'm talking because I'm family and I know. Our financial aid situation ain't always the most stable.
At
any of the schools. So sometimes they mess up your money and people like, I'm fed up with it. I'm going over here. I'm going over here because they got their stuff together. However, I don't regret it. And what I say now, because I have 3 daughters, and this is being a father, being an HBCU grad, I took tours to many different colleges on my own. I went to several Ivy League schools, and I went to a couple of HBCUs and other PWIs in between. I was pushing a few years ago, because my oldest, she a junior. So when she was a freshman, sophomore, even 8th grade, I was like, I wanted her to go to Brown because I like Brown campus the best up in Rhode Island. I said, yeah, I like Brown. Yeah, let's focus on Brown. I want you to go to Brown. Then last year, I actually looked and was like, I don't want that, because this is my thought process. And it's no disrespect, I'm only speaking for my personal issues, not anyone, KROSS BARZ or Miss Keisha. The issue I thought about was, how many African-American men will be at Brown? So a lot of times women find their spouse, where I found my wife, is at their college, university, or a college function. Not saying that you don't have to go, but it may be a college function that you will find a significant person. And it's because similar interests and proximity.
Yes.
So because of these things, I'm thinking like, well, how many proximity would she have with an African-American young man?
Mhm.
And would I be okay if she brought someone from another culture? And I was like,
Sure.
I would love regardless, but I prefer
Right.
for her to bring someone home that, you know, share our same culture per se. And that's when I said, okay, cool. Now she was already pushing. I'm going to HBCU, this and that. And I'm looking at her like, would you?
For her mama and her daddy, but for that, so.
But I'm looking at her like, you know, like it's a lot of people who ain't make it through because that partying aspect is for real now.
Mhm.
You know,
Lord.
so I'm looking at her like, hey, you better calm down.
Somebody was praying.
Look, don't be too enthusiastic. You know what I mean? Because I'm looking at her. Yeah, I'm giving an eye like that. Because she a girl and I get so nervous. Like, you know, God already got me back. He gave me 3 daughters. I'm like, I wasn't even the bad one. I'm just putting it out there. I was like, what's going on? You know, I look like one son. He's like, nah, you getting 3 of these. So now, being that, and now you went to Marshall, what was your experience at Marshall as far as culture, all right, experience, and what you wanted to become as an adult?
Yeah, so I can remember first going to Marshall. Like I said, I did not want to be there. I did not like Marshall for a few years. You know, I can look back now and say I had a lot of fun during those 2 years. I didn't like it, but while there, I particularly didn't care for it because that's not where I wanted to be. I was there because that's where someone else wanted me to be. I did, you know, encounter some people that are still part of my life. You know, this episode is one. But I also, as you had mentioned, that's where I found, you know, at that point of my life, my significant other at that time for my children. He's the father of my 2 older children. But when I
whoa, you really ain't gonna blaze over that brother is down at A&T.
No, that's not. No.
He ain't go to A&T?
No.
We sort of went our separate ways when I got off.
You broke up with him because he was going away to college?
No, I was in.
Trigger me.
I know all this gonna be chopped and screwed a little bit, right? So no, so he went off to college, right? He went to A&T. I went to Marshall. We visited each other for a few times in the midst of him being there and I'm being here. But then I met a gentleman at Marshall. You know, you talked about proximity and your door. You know, I'm gonna spin it back when you talk about.
Don't let him make them faces. He just said it. Go ahead.
You already know. And so I met a gentleman at Marshall, and we had a pretty good friendship that led to other things. And in the midst of us having other things came children.
Oh, absolutely.
And so then after children came, you know, marriage and things of that sort. But I don't think that's part of this story. But if it need to be, I mean, we can do it. We can.
Oh no, it's a part of this story. It's part of this story.
We'll make a part of this story. And so
because that's
you ain't gotta get details.
No, we don't get detail. We don't get detail. I'm about to spin the block in a minute. All right.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So spin it.
Here we go. So he and I, we got married. He was a professional basketball player overseas. So I was here in the United States raising 2 small children while obtaining my master's degree and things of that sort while he was overseas. Things didn't work out the way that he and I both probably wish they would have for the sake of our children. And so we went our separate ways. But here's when the block comes back around. The gentleman whom I mentioned that went to A&T, he and I got back together in a relationship. And we stayed together for quite some time. And then we had a child together who's now 13. Unfortunately, and I even though I have a smile on my face, but unfortunately, he recently passed about 4 years ago. But he truly is the love of my life. Even though I talk about having an ex-husband, he truly is the love of my life for many reasons. That's also discussed in my book because he was the person that allowed me to understand the importance of having a voice. So he's more than just my significant other. He's more than just my child's father. He was truly my saving grace at a time that I thought my voice had to be silenced.
Okay. And that's respectful. And I'm just saying that what you said triggered me because, you know, I was going away from college and then my girl was like, yeah, bye. You know, like, bye. Doses.
Yeah.
See ya. And it was like, but at the same time, with how you explain that, you know, that's, you know, very
full circle.
It don't sound like a book. It sounds like a movie. You know what I mean?
Well, let's talk that into existence. I keep getting asked that. So we're going to talk that into existence.
You know, I do want to say, you know, although you talked about a lot of trauma, you know, with education, you know, school and all that, you went through college. Not only did you get your bachelor's degree, you got your master's degree. She actually went and worked for a HBCU, correct me, West Virginia State University, correct?
I did. I did.
She worked at West Virginia State University, and so you're still, even though you had those educational traumatic experiences, what made you still want to continue with it? Like some people would have been like, I ain't doing no school. What made you say, no, I am going to get this master's. I am going to, do this. What made you do that despite, your challenges?
So this is one of my coin phrases, and normally I would have worn the shirt today, but we all know what DNA is, right? Like we think of DNA, we think of biological, but my DNA was started at a very early foundation, right? And my DNA is determination and ambition. So because of my foundation of determination and ambition, there was nothing, no matter what the circumstances may have been, no matter what I talk about today, there was nothing, and there still is nothing that's going to stop me from being prosperous. So even though the tragedy may be some things that people hear, what I want people to know is that through my determination and my ambition, I persevered through everything. And I will continue to persevere because I know life still continues. Okay. So that's sort of what gives you the answer.
I'm sorry. But no. You mean she was saying, determination, you lost your child's father. And then in the midst of after you lost your child's father, you have 3 children, and then you end up losing your son.
Yeah.
Your oldest son.
Yes.
And so still a lot of trauma, and you're standing here today. So I want to, give you your kudos for that, and give you your, hand clap for still maintaining and still moving forward. And we still have a few more things to talk about before we get off here. But, just talk a little bit about that. You lose, the love of your life. And then in turn after that, you lose your son not too long after that. So kind of just touch on that for a moment.
So, October 26, 2021, I lost my 21-year-old son. He was battling kidney failure. He was in kidney failure and awaiting a transplant. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. He contracted COVID and lost his battle to COVID at a very early age of 21 years old. And so as one may sit here and listen, as one may sit here and reflect, they will wonder, how can a mother get up and continue to go as I am today? Right. And what I realized in the midst of losing my child was that I had to turn my sorrow into service. And what I also realized is that throughout my whole life, that's what I've always done, that I faced a lot of sorrow, but I've always given back in service. And so as it's easy for me to lay in the bed, cry, grieve and things of that sort. Not to say that I don't grieve, because grief comes in many different fashions, right? Mm-hmm. What I realize is that my purpose is much greater, that if I can inspire others, if I can inspire others to understand that as your story may not be like my story, as your story may not even be similar in no way, shape, or form, we all know what pain is. And we all at some point have went through something, but we don't have to let our something keep us down. Our something can define us to be something much greater. And so that's what I stand on every day, is that what I don't have control over, I won't allow to control me. So what I have to do, and what I continue to do, is find ways to inspire other people through my story, through my triumph, and through my perseverance. And so that is my turning my sorrow into service, if that makes sense.
Yes, it completely does. And just listening to different, obstacles that you face during your life. And that's one thing, as just person is interviewing someone, in books as well as movies, called character development. So if we walk through your life and see some of the things, then it's not so a surprise that someone would look and say, well, how she was able to survive a divorce, remarry, and then lose a child and still stand. Because we saw that at an early age, that you went from one culture to another, which is very traumatic, then losing 2 parents at a very young age, being able to witness and see one of those personally having that indelible mark on you, and then have race riots in high school, not being able to make your own choices as far as which direction you wanted to go, then being able to catch your voice, fall in love again, and fall in love twice, because that's, admirable, and then being able to have children, and then go through the trauma of, divorce, then, remarry, and then losing a child, you know, and now you stand here and we can say, well, we kind of showed you some of the things that you've been through.
Yeah.
But now we saying, okay, this is your passion now. This is your voice. You're an advocate and speaking about some of these traumas so others can actually learn from it and be able to get through their own trauma. Yes. So now, how are you going to do this on the larger platform? So you already have a book. So what are some of the other avenues that you are going to do or you planning to do and other things that you're doing currently?
So currently what I do is I make a conscious effort. I attempt to do it daily, but sometimes it's not every day, but it may be every other day that I do inspirational words, whether it be through a TikTok video, whether it be through a reel, whatever it may be. I use my voice to reach out to other people who may know me personally or who may not know me, because I know that every day, whether we say we may need something, I know my words is helping somebody. And so I make a conscious effort to do that. As far as a bigger scale, what I plan to do and what I am putting myself in the platform to do is to be able to openly go out into different communities, be able to speak, be able to uplift and empower people, no matter who the person may be, whether it's a child, whether it's an adult, male, female, black, white, it doesn't matter. Again, because I think that when we look at trauma, when we look at perseverance, it has no color. It has no age. And so I want my voice to be able to be that voice that can inspire that mother, inspire that father, that sister, that brother, whomever, to know that, hey, when we don't have control, it doesn't mean that we have to truly lose control of ourselves. And so how can we stay on the path of being able to move forward during a time when people think we should sit still?
Okay, awesome.
Right. Tell us about, there's another way that you're in a larger scale. Tell us about the jungle. What is the jungle about?
Yes. So speaking back to my son, and at the beginning of COVID in 2020, my son started a 3-on-3 basketball tournament here in the community of Charleston on the west side, which is the inner city of our area that sometimes don't always get the best attention in regards to positively. People have coined that to be a negative area, which, you know, I'm going to tell you it's not. But upon he passing, well, let me go back. When he first started the jungle, his reasons for starting the jungle was that as we all were being shut in an environment that we weren't used to being closed into our homes, his thought was, Mom, people's mental health is not great. And so we need an outlet. And so that's when he started a 3-on-3 basketball tournament, the jungle. And so as he was lying on his deathbed, my daughter and I whispered to him that we were going to keep the jungle going. Now I'm going to tell you, I had no idea what I had agreed to do. I just knew I was going to do it, however that meant, right? And so last year, months after he had passed away, I started putting together the jungle, and I added a little bit of touch to it, to whereas it's still a 3-on-3 basketball tournament that goes all day. I now have put community resources out there as well. I have different organizations come in. We set up big booths to where our community not only see basketball, but it touches the lives of so many people, to where if you need to know about West Virginia rehab services to get additional treatment, when I speak of treatment, I don't mean like drug treatment. I mean like if someone has a disability and things like that, they need help with schooling,
diabetes,
all these different resources are out there. Mental health resources are out there. So it's a big community event that I had last year that I'm going to tell you attracted over 1,000+ people. And so as I didn't think I knew what I was doing, right, I want to believe that I was guided to do what was already put in place. The seed was planted by my son, and we're just running with it. And so we're looking forward to our next jungle being on July the 2nd here in the community, again, to give back to our community so that our community is uplifted in areas in which they may not know where the resources are. So again, we attract them by the sport, but the bigger component is the resources that are available for our families.
I heard there was a movie you guys are going to make. Is that or something I saw about? There was a movie going to be made about it or something about the jungle.
Did I miss that? Did somebody?
I saw that somewhere, like the movie.
Oh, shoot it to me, because nobody told me that. Maybe somebody gonna contact me. I don't know.
You never know. So wait a minute. She's being a little modest. So she says that, I didn't know much about the jungle, but you're a referee.
I am.
So tell us about that. As a matter of fact, there's a little, wait a minute. She's been refereeing for years, basketball, right, Miss Keisha?
Yes.
So tell us about this, Black history thing that you were a part of here in West Virginia regarding your refereeing.
So I have just concluded my 14th season of being a basketball official. Thank you. So in 2020, I had the honor of being the first African-American female to ever ref a girls' state basketball tournament here in West Virginia. And so you're right. I don't really share that much, but I'm very blessed and thankful. And I believe the reason I don't share that much is because I don't only want to be seen as a Black woman who refereed. I want to be seen as a woman who refereed a high, I guess, scholastic basketball game. So a lot of times I don't acknowledge that because I don't want to be seen just as that person who happened to be Black that refereed a game. I want to be seen as a referee who earned that position to be out there. So thank you for acknowledging that. But a lot of times I do forget to mention that.
Absolutely. She was the first Black, and that was the first Black crew that she was on. It was the all Black crew, the first time ever in the history of West Virginia was the first all Black referee crew. So give it up. I think that's Mr. Stephen Robinson and Clarence Woody.
Clarence Woody.
Hold on. I got some questions real quick. Now, being that you ref some years and things, all right. You know, when you see a Black team, do you kind of like, I'm gonna give you a little bit of cause, I call them like, like reparations or something like that. Like,
reparations.
You don't do that.
Reparations.
No, I tend now, again, what I know when I walk into the game is I'm either the most liked or the most disliked person when I walk in and leave out, right? But what I want to believe about myself is that I am very consistent in my skill of being a basketball official. And honestly, when we walk off the court, I couldn't tell you what the score is. I couldn't tell you who had the most fouls because I'm truly there to ref the game. I have nothing else to gain from it or to lose from it other than to make sure the kids get on the floor safely and leave off safely and go back home to their families. So I don't really look at who's playing, who's more skilled and who's not.
Okay, that's pretty awesome. And right now it should be a busy time because many of these high schools, they're in the state finals now. This is the time of the year. So I'm sorry. Go ahead. You busy right now, or you kind of chilling, going on book tours?
So that would be nice. Speak that into existence too, right? No. So actually, as we're speaking, the girls' state tournament is going on right now. I didn't get a state tournament this year. I actually did a regional, right, which is the step right before our state tournament. So we are in girls' state tournament season right now. The championship is tonight, and then next week start the boys.
Okay. Do you have any aspirations to go to the professional or collegiate level?
So I did, but when my son's father passed away in 2018, I knew then that I had to sort of focus on raising my son. So being a collegiate official requires a lot of traveling. And I rather focus my attention on my child than being out of state traveling for basketball. Okay.
And being a referee, does that pay well, or is like still a part-time job?
It pays. It does what it needs to do.
Okay.
Don't.
I'm not gonna have nobody knocking on my door.
That's right.
About, did you say something? Yeah. It buys me a cheeseburger.
Okay. All right. Maybe you get another one and get some fries. I got you.
Yeah, there you go. Buys me a cheeseburger.
I got you. All right, wink, wink. I got you. All right. So yeah, that's pretty cool. So now you have these endeavors, you have a passion, you have a career, you have, the world at your fingertips. So are you looking for love again, or you say, you know what, been there, done that? Nah, I'm good.
I live life day to day. I'm never going to take away whatever blessing may come my way. But I'm not out searching or seeking for anything. But, I live life day to day, and whatever is meant for me will happen. Whatever is not, I'm cool with that too.
Okay. All right. I see you, sister. I got you. All right. Because, you see you when you're running up, you got the nylons on, the little tight rep pants. Listen, I know. Got the little tight rep pants. Who that right there? Oh, that's Keisha. Oh, Keisha with the good hair? Yeah. I'm just saying. Okay. All right. Got you. All right. So that's cool though. But and that's pretty awesome. So now what I would say, with all these things going on, would you have time? Because it's only 24. We all get it's only 24 hours in a day.
Would I have time for another individual in my life?
A relationship? Oh.
Right. I mean, so to answer that question, I think with anything in life comes balance and understanding and respect. Right. And so I would hope to believe that if someone was sent my way, they'll be sent my way, understanding what my life is, as I have an understanding of what their life and needs are as well. So I think it comes with being mature and having balance in life to be able to accommodate both lives, mine and that person's, if that makes sense.
Bars.
All right.
Yeah, Keisha Bars.
Now,
You like it?
Yeah,
you
yeah.
Like it?
So, do you tell your sons about all the triumphs and tribulations, the things that you've been dealing with for them? Because sometimes parents, don't tell their children about some of their things that they've been through and shield them and say, I'll tell you later. Or do you tell him as a lesson to say, look, you need to stay away from drugs because our family has dealt with addiction issues? Or you say, I'll tell him later.
No, so I'm very, very transparent with my children. I feel that they need to understand who I am at all times, because ultimately who I am sometimes, what I've been through a lot of times characterizes sometimes my emotions, my attitude, my behaviors, my thought process, and things of that sort. So I've always been very open with my children. Now, ironically, my daughter, who's the oldest, she's 25, and I gifted her my book. And so I don't think that she truly had a true understanding of mom.
Right.
Until she began to read mom's book. Right. And, some things that she may have like, oh, my mom is this, my mom is that growing up. I think now she has a better understanding of why, but also what I was spinning that is that as sometimes she thought that she and I didn't get along, what she's learned is that I didn't know what a mother-daughter relationship was like because I didn't have a mom. Mm-hmm. Gotcha. So many times when we may have been battling, or she may have thought you're treating me differently than what you're treating my brother, she now understands that it's not that my mom didn't love me, but my mom really didn't know what it's like to have a relationship with her mother because she didn't have one. So I think that has allowed our relationship to become much closer because now she truly understands who mom is. She heard me talk, but now to actually see it in words and more expressive, we have a greater understanding of each other.
Okay. I love that.
What about your sons? Do your sons look at you like, okay, she's being a little hard on me, she tripping a whole lot,
He's the man.
she's going, mom just wilding, she need to leave me alone, let me be me.
Yeah, so my son who passed, ironically, he and I were very much alike in so many areas. Now my baby child, he's more reserved. But I think the similarities that he and I have, and we talk about quite often, is that as I was 8 when I lost my mom, he was 9 when he lost his dad. So we've been able to relate in that regards of what it's like to be a child without a parent. So I think in that respect, he and I have a better understanding of what it means to be a child, to grieve. But the difference is I wasn't allowed to talk about it because no one talked about it with me. So I make a conscious effort ever since he was little to talk about it with him, from the point of putting him into counseling as soon as his father passed away to now he and I have an open relationship talking about different things when it came to he and his father.
Okay. Were you able to learn like, wow, I noticed that in my child. I didn't know I was going through that because you were able to see it from a lens of a parent versus going through it as a child.
Yeah. So as a child, I was very, very angry. But I didn't understand. I fought all the time. Like that was my hobby. Fighting was my hobby. I just didn't box. I just ran and played basketball. But really fighting was my hobby. But I didn't understand that that was my defense mechanism. Like I was fighting because I was angry because I couldn't talk about what I was going through because I didn't even know what I was going through. So when it came to my son, I knew that I had to make sure that he had a voice in how he was feeling. So that's the difference in how I was able to look at it from a lens of a parent who once was hurt as a child at his age.
Okay. And that's good. But, okay, understand.
I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, you did. You did. Yeah, you absolutely did. But this is the time of the show where I ask you a couple of rapid fire questions, okay? Because I didn't ask you too much about your sporting, proudness. We learned on the humbug that you was a ref. I wish I'd have known that part, but it's all good. But I'm gonna ask you a series of questions, all right? So you could say both, you could say neither, one or the other. So for instance, right? I'm gonna throw a little easy one out there because some is sports, some is entertainment, some is just life, okay? Michael Jackson or Prince?
Michael Jackson.
Okay, so you know how to do it. So if I say something, you can say, "Oh, I can't choose." You can say both. If you don't like either one, you can say neither. Okay, cool.
Okay.
All right, serious ones. All right, cool.
All right, here we go. Here we go.
All right.
I feel like I'm on a chopping block.
No, watch this. It's just like real smooth, okay?
Okay.
West Virginia or Michigan?
Michigan.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay, all right. Malcolm X or Martin Luther King?
Malcolm X.
Okay. All right, okay. The Baltimore Ravens or the Cleveland Browns?
Neither.
Gotcha.
Ah,
Beyonce.
Pittsburgh.
Beyonce or Alicia Keys?
Beyonce.
Okay. Denzel or Tom Hanks?
Denzel.
Okay. All right. Captain Crunch or Cinnamon Toast Crunch?
Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Yeah.
North Carolina A&T or West Virginia University?
North Carolina A&T.
Thank you.
Mm.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Hold
All
on. Now watch this. Let's go.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay. Lorenz Tate or Morris Chestnut?
Ooh.
Morris Chestnut.
Woo! She said that with
You
some
better say
authority.
it.
And a snap.
Okay. Patti LaBelle or Aretha Franklin?
Aretha Franklin.
Okay.
Hey.
All right. Pat Mahomes or Lamar? What is Lamar? Goodness gracious. Baltimore Ravens. Goodness quarterback. Lamar. Oh.
Don't ask me because I don't remember.
Yeah, Lamar
nothing.
Jackson. God. Lamar Jackson
Hey.
or Pat Mahomes?
Neither.
All right. So that's all I had. You know.
Okay.
It's really good. That was you kind of like most of the time when I ask some things, they give me the neither or the both, and I was like, wow, you actually picked one or the other.
No, she know what she like.
I'm not an in-between person, so that's probably why.
That was real good. You know, I asked them, you know, because Patty and Aretha, people like, and I asked them.
Well, you know, Aretha is my soror.
Oh, so okay, I know something. It was something. I know. Okay, and I remember real talk. Like I was on A&T, and I was like, rock.
There you go.
Look, now watch this. Girl was like, you better. Yeah, the girl like, what
That's
you doing?
right. You better get jumped non-violently.
Rockefeller. And they was like, I don't know about Rockefeller, but right here on North Carolina campus,
right.
Yeah, you better understand, you better not throw that up again. I was like, is y'all a gang? Did I throw up a gang sign? Look, I was like, is it a gang? Because I don't want no problems with you know, whippersnappers. You might put a cap in me, you know, but you know, it's all good. You know, man, absolutely. Wait a minute. Where was that Delta Sigma Theta founded? What campus?
Howard University.
University.
January 13th, 1913.
Oh, okay. Listen, I was asking because you know if you got that wrong, right?
He was like,
look. I was just asking. All right, so that's all good. So that was just the questions from me, my quick fire questions. You passed with flying colors. You know, I don't know enough about people in refereeing. I know that the first African American woman that coached a team on the for the NFL that just happened a few years ago. The first woman that actually reffed a basketball game happened as well. But I didn't know their names to be throwing them in there. So I was like, let me shut up because I messed up on Lamar Jackson name. So let's just understand where I'm coming from. No.
All right, so
you know, I forgot to mention what else I did, but inroads. You know,
go ahead. Yes. I was about to say that. There's a couple of more things I want you to touch on before we go. With the resurgence of inroads, you know, back in our area again, and so talk about your part in inroads. Also, want to talk about your new position as in Marshall University, and then you could take us on an hour here with a couple more things. But yeah, go ahead and speak on your inroads first.
Yeah. So as I talk about some of my personal things that I do on the side, as you know, as you called me the Jamaican there, my professional job actually is that I'm the program manager for Inroads College Links here in West Virginia. Inroads is a national nonprofit organization which focuses on career and college readiness programs for high school students. And so on a daily basis, I am impacting the lives of those college students, underrepresented high school students, underrepresented high school students that are here in our local area to make sure they receive the soft skills necessary to go off to college. So that's what I do on a regular basis. So again, giving back to our kids to make sure they have a better chance of success is what I do regularly.
Okay. Is that similar to Upward Bound?
So it does have some similarities to some degree. The difference with Inroads is that Inroads, we have the high school side, but then we also have our Leadership Development Academy, which is for our college students to help them get internships so that by the time they graduate by the time they graduate college, they probably will already have a job set up because of the internship opportunities they had while being in Inroads. Gotcha. So our goal is to get them in high school, and then when they graduate high school to go into our Leadership Development Academy, where we do coaching, we do mock interviews, we help them with their resumes, and we help them understand the importance of getting out there to find internships for them to be successul in their field. So that's the difference. And, it doesn't matter if your parent went to school, it doesn't matter what a parent's financial situation is, as long as you meet our basic criteria of having a 2.5 and 2 letters of recommendation in high school, then you basically fit the criteria to be in the program.
Okay.
All right. And then your Marshall University, you are just recently been selected as the what?
So my love for the Kelly Green and White. I am the Marshall University Black Alumni, as we call it, MUBA. I am the newly elected president for MUBA. So that's another responsibility that I have to make sure that, those who attended Marshall, that we continue to show our love, our fellowship, and our dollars back to our university. So it's basically, in a leadership position to make sure that the love that I have for Marshall is spread out amongst the bodies that also went there so that we all can come back in and give back to our university what was given to us.
Okay, the MUBA. Okay, that sounds like Grand Poobah. Okay. Do y'all have to wear funny hats? Because that sounds like back in the day with the Flintstones, and they was in that group.
This is not the Water Buffalo.
We just wear that
club.
pretty block M, Okay. It has Marshall, we are Marshall,
Yeah, Marshall. We're daughters of Marshall.
We're daughters of Marshall.
But you said Kelly Green. That's a real color, like Kelly
Our
Green.
color is Kelly Green and White.
And white.
Wow. That's something I just learned. I never knew. Because you said Kelly Green. I was like, who is Kelly Green? Where does she come from? And I was like, no, Kelly Green. Like,
to the normal eye, you probably would say green, but for those who, proudly wear the Kelly. M on our chest, we're gonna tell you it's Kelly Green and White.
Kelly Green and White. Okay.
All right. So where can we find your book or books that you got going on? Where can we find that at?
Yes. So my book currently is on Amazon. It can also be purchased on online platforms at Target, Books A Million, Barnes and Noble, and then ultimately I also have my own website, which is www.nosorrows.com.
Okay.
nosorrows.com.
And where you gonna be down in the North Carolina, Charlotte area? Because I need my book signed. I don't like having if I know you and you got a book and I got your book, I need mine signed to Big Oh. You know what I mean?
I tell you, I was supposed to have been there yesterday to see the New Edition concert.
See, and I had a problem.
Did you go? Oh,
no, but I'm going.
I wanted to go because I was trying to take my wife on a date. Stuff ain't work out. I had some stuff to do. It was messed up. Then they couldn't show me the seats I was getting because, we grown and we don't do cheap seats.
Hey, you sound like me.
Right.
Yeah,
if I don't know, I'm going to pay for what you... Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So they was like not showing it. And I said, listen, I don't want no tomfoolery. I know what y'all doing. I don't
want to see nobody's cell phone or no projector watching no screen. I'm
on the floor because when we went to Stevie, she put me on the floor, the Spectrum. They was at Bojangles. I was like, I need to be on the floor because I'm a dancer.
Let me give you a hint, though. Let me give you a hint. I saw New Edition back in March in Greensboro. Okay. From what I hear, the Greensboro Stadium, the way it's set up is a little bit different than the Charlotte Stadium. Correct. So if you were to go to Greensboro in April, I think it's April 23rd, look for seats like 127 over in that area. It's off the stage, but it's almost like you're on the stage.
Oh, no. I used to work at the Coliseum. I know
Okay, there
exactly.
you
go.
So
He's sneaking in the back door. He gets to sneak in the back door.
When we
He
go,
done sold the
I'll
keys.
sign your book then.
No. I don't know how to get in anymore because they changed up, but the stadium is still the same inside. See, I know how to sneak down in there. It's not a problem. You know what I mean? $20 at the Coliseum will get you to the floor.
And where?
In the
Greensboro?
Coliseum? Yeah. Because the Vince staff.
Now, when New Edition is there.
Excuse me, I'm going to tell you a little secret. They pay them cats, well, they used to pay them $9 an hour. I know they ain't go up that much. So you had them a good 50. Hey, yo, give me and my wife down to that floor seat.
I'll sign your book.
So right there. And listen.
Yeah, like she's signing your book.
And you'll be right down there on the floor with me.
Hey, well, too, that's saying we're going to.
But see, I'm too short to be on the floor, so I like where I sit at 127. I'm too short.
Yeah, I got you. That's the right there, not on the side, but they're right there at the center level. They don't have because they got stadium seating. Like if you dance and if you got a little drinking, you can just fall on the people in front of you.
Yeah.
So that's not what you really want to do. So, but for me, because I'm dancing, I could be in the aisle. I don't have to be close to the stage because technically close to the stage, a lot of those shows, they build a 6-foot stage.
Yeah.
So if they build a 6-foot stage, you're really looking
you already
up at them.
Right.
Looking
Yeah,
up at them there. But for the smaller venues, like where they have BB King, they have a 3-foot or 3-foot or a 4-foot stage.
Okay.
So they have a smaller stage. So that's like 4 steps. But at 6-foot, they'll have like 8 steps going up. So, So like me, I used to be like there next to the stage, but that's near here and there. So now we're gonna get there. We're gonna get our thing going on. Get my book signed.
I'm gonna get you a book. I'm gonna have to get a book for her. And I done wrote in mine and highlighted and underlined because I was reading it because I needed the information. So you don't want my book. I was gonna say I'll have her sign mine and I send it to you, but I got notes.
I'll get you a copy.
Thank you. She got Tanae juice on hers.
All right.
Maybe I could have a book tour in Charlotte because I know some folks in Charlotte. I could just have a book tour out there.
Definitely. And it's a city of, as I like to say, transplants. Everybody's from somewhere.
Yeah.
There's already a bunch of West Virginia.
We got a lot of Herd family in Charlotte.
And what I like to say is, in West Virginia, y'all the only dark skinned people I know is the one that Tanae keep on introducing me to. Everybody else is light skinned. I'm telling you. I thought it was an epidemic.
Whatever. All right.
Well, it look like today I'm a little bit light skinned on here.
Girl, your chocolate showing through. I saw it already. I was like, you know what I mean? Look.
Something wrong with him. So, Keisha, thank you so much, my dear, for being on Cross Bars. We want to make sure that you guys check out Miss Keisha and say that website again. And where's your social media handles? Where can we find you on social media?
Yes, so it's www.nosorrows.com. On IG and TikTok, it's LaKeisha Barron-Brown _author.
All right. You guys heard it. All right. So that's it. Big O, you got anything before we take it out?
Man, you know what? I do not, but thank you. I appreciate it. This time is flying. I ain't even realize we've been on here for an hour and a half.
Rolling.
Oh,
when the conversation is good, you know what I mean? That's what Cross Bars in the back. So check us out at Cross Bars at KROSS BARZ. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Check us out on our website, www.crossbars.com. That's all we got for you today. Thank you again, Keisha B. We love you.
Thank you.
Jeez.
Thank you.